Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 129. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture, with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank everyone who has liked, shared, commented, and has subscribed to the show. All your support allows us to continue to bring on expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guest today. Also want to thank our sponsors. Family owned and operated since 1976, Samson Equipment has been specializing in full turnkey weight room build-outs from planning to installation. Based in Las Cruces, New Mexico, Samson provides professional weight room solutions for those looking to lead the way in advancing our strength and conditioning profession. Coaches relied on Samson as their top resource for all their weight room renovations because they provide the finest materials and design, product customization, and the most reputable customer service in the business. So if you're in the market for elite level strength equipment, weight room renovations, or upgrades, be sure to check out samsonequipment.com to see how Samson has been delivering clients a long-lasting yet affordable product for over 4 decades. Also want to thank our sponsor, Cerberus Strength. Owned and operated by active lifters, Cerberus is trusted by the top strength sport athletes and lifters in the world. Cerberus's wide range of products are made by athletes for athletes, truly living up to its moniker, made by the strong for the strong. So from sandbags, training gear and supplements, to lifting straps, knee sleeves, and much more, Cerberus Strength provides the highest quality strength products on the market, designed and manufactured to help you defeat, destroy, and devour your competition. Be sure to use our promo code strength_game at checkout to receive 10% off your order at cerberusstrength.com. Also want to thank our sponsor, Sport Kilt. Sport Kilt is the very first company to begin making casual kilts in the USA. Taking the traditional kilt concept, they crafted a casual kilt using modern materials that is perfect for Highland athletes and casual kilt aficionados alike. Sport Kilt offers an option for people looking for a plaid kilt that is less expensive, comfortable, lighter, and durable, yet machine washable. So make the ultimate Celtic statement by checking out the full selection of kilts and stylish kilt accessories at sportkilt.com. Be sure to use promo code TSG to save at checkout. And in this week's episode, I am joined by Colin Kenyon. Colin is the Associate Director of Football Strength Conditioning at Tulane University. Kenyon came to the Green Wave in spring 2024 after spending the previous 2 seasons working as an assistant football strength coach at Troy University, as well as 2 seasons in a similar role at the University of Illinois from 2021 to 2022. Prior to joining the Fighting Illini, he spent 2 seasons at Army West Point working with the football program after interning with the Army Black Knights in both the summer of 2018 and the summer of 2019. He also garnered experience as an intern strength coach in his junior and senior years at Merrimack College and during the summer of 2017 at Mike Boyle Strength. A former defensive lineman at Merrimack College, Kenyon continues to train and stay active himself while balancing the rigors of the collegiate coaching schedule. Like I said, I'm excited to have him on the show today. So with all that said, let's get in the game with Coach Colin Kenyon. What's going on, everybody? Today we're excited. We're joined by Colin Kenyon. What's going on today, Coach?
Coach, it's a good day. Just back in the office after a little break and getting ready to roll for the winter session.
I know we talked about it a little bit as at the time of recording, like we're right in the heat of like winter break. But it's the spring semester is rolling up on us real quick. So I'm appreciative of your time and especially when you could be spending it probably at home or kind of blasting away on Excel, getting ready for the team to get back. But thanks again for coming on. Let's hop right into it. I know we were chatting before, but really didn't get into much of where you got going in your own athletic career. Like, what kind of first got you started in the strength game, like sports you played growing up, kind of leading into what you do yourself to stay active and train?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a small town in New York called Duanesburg, and fortunately enough, I grew up around some pretty high level coaches and administrators and kind of the world I came from. So, I mean, my dad coached me forever when I was a kid. My mom coached me in some sports, but um, my uncle was a high level high school and college coach in football, and my grandfather was a Hall of Fame high school football coach in upstate New York. So, and I was back in the 70s and 80s, and he was rolling around doing that. But I got to be around coaches at a pretty high level at a pretty young age. So I think it was kind of predetermined for me as a kid that I was going to be a teacher or a coach. I think that was kind of going to come out in one of these avenues. But I mean, I played everything as a kid. Cross country, which now is kind of fun looking back, how I did cross country for a year, but we didn't have football at that point in our school. So I ran across country in the fall to stay in shape for wrestling season. So I wrestled in the winter, and then I ran track, and then played lacrosse in the spring and the summer. And then my sophomore year of high school, we got a football team. So I played youth football growing up and going through it, but from probably seventh or eighth grade to sophomore year of high school, I didn't play football because we just didn't have the next level. We didn't have anything in high school. So started playing football my sophomore year and then played it out for the rest of high school. I was still wrestling up until my sophomore year, and I had a shoulder and back injury. So I stepped out of wrestling and played basketball so I could attempt to stay healthy, go play football in college. It worked out, enough for a while, but I was very fortunate coming from a small town like that. And our high school team was completely privately fundraised. So our school didn't pay for it. Um, it was a weird situation where the school wasn't necessarily fired up about having a football team, but enough people brought it up and wanted it to be there. They said, okay, that's fine, but we're not paying for it. So it's kind of funny walking around town and asking for donations so that we could buy helmets or have a jersey, pads to put in our pants for the season. So that was a little bit different, but it gave me a good appreciation of what it takes to put an organization together and keep it running and all the odds and ends of things that you need to do to even have a team in the first place. So I lucked out pretty well. And I actually went to college thinking I was to be an athletic trainer, and kind of classic strength coach thing. I thought I wanted to be an AT, and then I got there, and that's not what I thought it was. I was on the opposite end where I knew what it was. I actually went to a summer camp at Springfield College for a couple of days to do AT stuff. And I said, this is great, and I want to do this. So I got to Merrimack College for my undergrad as an AT major. So this is great. There for a year and a half doing AT, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I ended up hitting up a strength coach and just asking, what is this? What do you do? Talk to me about the odds and ends of the profession at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. And he emailed me back 5 minutes later, which I was shocked, at a Power 5 school coach answering the email at all, let alone that quickly. He's like, well, actually, your director of strength, Mike Kamal. I know who that is. I know your strength coach, Scott Leach. He had him here before. He's my strength coach in college. And let's sit down and talk about it. So he took time out of his day and out of his week to get on the phone with me and sit down on a Zoom call and go over the profession. And then I started interning and try to, start to kind of get rolling into it. And in high school, it didn't work out at all, much to my dad's dismay. Said, you should probably get in the weight room. Let's go. And I said, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't really need that, which, looking back, that's comical because I was not that good. And found the weight room in college with Coach Leach and Coach Kamal at Merrimack and just loved it, and found the value that not just athletically, but also who I was as a man just made me better. So I got to meet some pretty incredible coaches and people and mentors that I still have now, being at Merrimack, interning with them, going through that process and starting to find out what kind of training I enjoy doing. Who am I as an athlete? That now, a couple knee surgeries later, my training has changed slightly, but I still enjoy I guess you call it powerlifting. It's not that technical, but I enjoy putting some heavy weight in the bar and benching, squatting, and deadlifting and moving some weight. And I actually had a whole boss of mine in the Army, Connor Hughes. He said, "It ain't called weak, coach." And it's kind of laughing, ha ha ha. He's like, "No, you better. Maybe it's not a big number, but you better train and practice what you preach to the guys and show that you're involved in this too. And if you really do love it, you'll do it anyways. You don't have to be forced to do it." So we started training and getting pretty competitive as a staff and trying to pull or squat or bench big numbers and just had a blast doing it. So that's kind of how my training's progressed to, I'm gonna go chase a number, but at the end of the day, I've reached them and I'm done. I've hit my numbers I can obtain on a reasonable scale. So now I'm gonna mess around this winter and spring and find a kind of new avenue and something else I can do and chase and compete in our own staff and our own world.
Yes, that's still a cool inception. And I mean, still finding a way to kind of chase something new, even if it's not going to be like an all-time PR or you be able to kind of train the same way you were. You could still go after something. I mean, every day you can kind of make it a little bit different. I mean, you don't want to get to the point where it's like my best Tuesday, no sleeves, like belt, wrist slap, like whatever it is, like this kind of PR, but like you're still actively pursuing something, even if it has shifted a little bit, but you also have the common sense to like reel it in. Like you're not playing a
Yeah.
sport anymore where you can kind of just throw it all out in the wind. But it's still nice to like get after it in your own way. And like Coach Hughes said too, like you have to be doing it in some aspect and you have to like practice what you preach. And even if it's not an outrageous number where you're going to show the athletes or outdo them, especially like when you start getting to higher levels and you start seeing some of these guys that are just absolute monsters. Like there's there's so many of them that are way surpass what I'll ever do, even like without coming fresh, not never training in their life. Like that's not my job to be better than them. I'm sure you can agree to that too.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm better than all of our athletes here, we're playing a very good football team. That would, I practiced a lot of D2 football. Yeah, and we're Division One. If I'm better than all of them, we probably don't have a very athletic or pretty talented football team. So their ceiling is just significantly higher than anything I would ever touch. But I mean, you said it. You got to be involved in something, show them you do it, and it builds a level of trust where I put myself through challenging things because that's what it takes to get better and be a part of it. Well, hey, if my coach does it too and he trains hard or whatever they're doing, they'll have more buy-in when you hand them a sheet like, okay, we're doing this. They at least say, okay, I know that my coach isn't sitting back at his desk and, crushing a donut and just saying, all right, guys, we'll see you later.
Yeah, it's when you actually give them that piece of paper or whatever it is, like they know that there's more than just you slapping it on a board and just saying like, well, this is what you're going to do and kind of like dictating it to them. You're actually, it's thoughtful, it's programmed, like there's experience behind it and you've gone through it yourself. So you're not having them do something that you wouldn't do yourself. You're in a different scenario. Like they're preparing for the sport. They want to be the best. They have goals that they want to attain. They have team goals, individual goals. Like you're trying to assist them to get them to a place that they normally can't get on their own or without like your help, it'd be a lot more difficult for them to do that too. So it's nice when that helps build the buy-in a little bit more and it keeps the conversation too like relatable because you're going in like, oh, I was having a rough day. Like, well, I just trained too. And their guys are coming from school. Like they've had a hard day, like lacking sleep too. It's easy to have those conversations, build that stuff up and keep them focused when you know that feeling yourself. You can speak from experience versus just kind of, yeah, just got to get through it, man. Just got to keep pushing through it. It's different conversation you can have with them when they understand that.
Yeah, it's a big piece. And our director of strength here, Rusty Witt, and we all train, do something. We're all in the world of lifting and training and competing with our staff and ourselves. But it's a piece understood with our guys when we talk to them and coach them and attempt, to mentor them that, yeah, we all played a sport at one time or another. We went through what you guys are going through now. And hopefully our experiences in the past can make your process better. So I can get out of you I can fill your cup as much as I possibly can. And your guys knowing that when we go demo a deadlift or bench or squat or a clean or whatever it is, so many exercises that we do that, you go do it right with some kind of weight on the bar and say, hey guys, this is what it looks like. This is how you do it the right way. This is the intensity you have to have, the details, the urgency. And they see that as a group, as administration. And it's kind of this, oh, okay, well, coach can do that and do it right. So I should probably give some efficacy and some thought to how they're teaching me to do it. And the buy-in's just higher. And the kids have a better level of trust that you're not just there because you read a book and passed a test. You actually care about what they're doing. And that's a huge piece in our department, our program.
Yeah, that trust and like them understanding that you actually care and the way that you go about that, like demonstrating that with the right intensity and like having a thorough, detailed like approach to like a demonstration like that versus like just say it. I think a lot of athletes are very visual and like they go based off feel. The majority of them do, and they like to watch film. They like to execute that stuff. Like it goes the same way in the weight room a lot of times too. Like just it's letters on a board, it's words on a board when you kind of like explain what the process and like what the setup for the day looks like. The same thing when you like give them a speech before they lift or like what you break it down like it's words without action until you actually like go and you set up and you tell them this is how you're going to execute a movement. Anybody can do a deadlift, but if you go tell them like this is why we're doing it, this is the intent, this is how the setup looks like, this is what you should feel, this is how fast it should be, like all those like little nuances and details that go into it is the difference between executing the right way and just checking a box.
Without a doubt. I cannot remember a time in the past 3 years being on the staff where you've told an athlete and they said, hey, why are we doing this? You say, because I said so. Like, well, that doesn't give them any reason to want to do it at a high level. No one wants to walk around and just be told because. So they want to know why. And rightfully so. I mean, why not? If they ask the question, hey, coach, why are we doing this squat setup? Why are we doing this rep scheme? Well, okay, everyone gather up. This is why we're doing it. And it's a quick 20, 30 seconds explaining why, but at least they get some sort of insight into what's the validity of the program we are running right now. Why are we doing this drill? Why are we doing this lift? And like, yeah, you can tell them we're going to get stronger. All right, yeah, I get it. But why do you need to be stronger? Is it pad level? Is it winning the line of scrimmage? Is it being healthy down the stretch? There's so many things you can talk about with your guys to build a level of trust because I'm asking them to do a lot. College football is hard. I'm asking them to come in at 5:50 in the morning and execute incredibly violent and aggressive drills when it's 32 degrees outside and windy and humid and the weather stinks and we're outside. And it's like, yeah, guys, this is why we're out here, and explain why, and at least set them up for mentally for some success. And then building this routine of, guys, your development window is so short. And now with how college athletics works with transfer portal and eligibility and moving around, the window development is even shorter. So nothing I can program for them can be an experiment. I can't look around and say, well, that looked cool. I saw that. Let's try this and see if it works. And I tell our guys this all the time. And as a staff, maybe it's a crutch for us. So far, it hasn't been, but we tell our guys there is absolutely nothing we do that's just for the sake of doing it. So everything we do has a reason and a plan and a progression and a regression and another variation where we need X outcome. So we're going to do a certain thing. And if we're not getting that outcome we thought we were getting, we're going to pivot to make sure we don't lose that development. And we're getting out of the training what we need to get. And once you have that, and I remember as a freshman, you lift and, well, for a while, I'm just sore and I'm not any bigger or faster or stronger. And then that one day you come in and that weight that used to crush you you smoke for a triple, and like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, man, like yeah, it works. It just takes time. It's time and time. And it's, yeah, development can be really boring. It's just what it is. Like, and the attention span of your athletes is increasingly depleting. So you have to find ways to keep their attention and keep their buy-in and their interest in your program. But once you get some guys a couple of years in where, hey guys, we've done some basic things at a really high level, and now you're seeing the benefit on the back end, that helps a lot of the other guys buy into. And they see guys be successful, you know, or you take a guy who had been hurt for a while, never played a full season because of an injury, or they'd always been banged up, never been 100% for, you know, we played for 17 weeks this year. I mean, it's a gruelingly long season. We had guys that last year and the year before, just here, not let alone at Troy, where they hadn't played past week 6, week 7 without being completely hindered by their injury, you know, their issues, and whether it's a hamstring or a groin or a hernia or a shoulder, all these, you know, common injuries of the game. Well, now we're in week 13, 14. We're playing for a championship and they're healthy. No, they're banged up. They play football. Yeah. Like if you feel good by week 14, probably didn't play a lot of football. I don't have to tell you, or you didn't practice very hard if that was your role in the team and your duty. But we're banged up. Yeah, of course we are. But our guys are healthy, and our starters start every game and play every game. And deep in the season, we have something still to play with, and you're not just trying to grasp at straws late in the year and try to just hold guys together with glue, because that gets real sketchy down the road.
Yeah, that doesn't last for very long. But no, that's a great way to put it too. Like you're right. Like a lot of the athletes, it seems like their attention span is and that instant kind of gratification of being able to want to see the results. Like you don't really see that like in development and like and strength conditioning a lot. Like you might see like it chip away or young kids like through puberty, but like that's the reason why for the most part, or you just learning something new. Like you can kind of see the immediate feedback that you're getting right away. But a lot of these players have been playing for like long before high school, going into college. Like they want to see it sooner because they see the older guys on the field and they want to get to that and attain that kind of success and play. But you're right. I think like one of the best like examples, not the greatest, but one of the best ones is like when you've been at a program for a while and you can point at the product and like the development of who was a freshman is now a senior starter.
Yep.
And then so the freshmen coming in have someone they can kind of emulate, and then you that buy-in helps. But the ultimate buy-in is when it happens to them individually, like them personally. It just takes a while when you're like we kind of know the nature of it. We'll probably touch on that in a second. Just like the volatility of like always kind of moving in the sport and like NIL and all the transfers and stuff like that. Because it's hard to like really focus on development when athletes are constantly moving. And coaches are changing and there's so many things up for grabs. The developmental season is short, but I know we'll touch on that in a second. But one thing you kind of brought up, and I wanted to kind of see if you guys had an approach or any thought to this was like having those conversations where you kind of stop and an athlete is not maybe not questioning, but asking like why we're doing something for a reason. And I've always thought this, and I learned this, like I forget what coach I learned this from, but like if someone's thinking that and someone's like vocalizing it, it's not the first person that's had that idea. So
Right.
I'd rather stop the session for like a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is, and bring everybody in and just kind of cut the ties. Like if anybody else is thinking this, even if they don't say it, like this is why we're doing it, and just tell the whole room right away. Like, does that happen more often, like off the cuff, where you're having those conversations and you're kind of like detailing the reason and the intention behind what you guys are doing? Or do you purposely kind of build that in on the front end, the back end, or any like meetings with the players, like when you're breaking down like a new phase of the program or stuff like that? Like, how does that kind of work into your guys' like training atmosphere?
Yeah. So I really for us, it kind of it's both ways. So sometimes we'll know what we're about to do in the weight room or on the field or whatever it may be might seem to them as confusing or, why are we doing this? What's the benefit of X, exercise, whatever we're doing. So we know it's coming up, and we'll try to, you know, kind of nip it in the bud on the front end and educate them. But you're right. If one kid's vocalizing it, they're not the only person, and someone else is thinking the same thing. And it's probably a decent percentage of your team. So if they're asking that question, you probably didn't give them the explanation on the front end well enough. So information for our guys is power. If they know something works and why they're doing it, they're probably going to give more effort in doing that exercise or that progression or that program. So sometimes we'll build it in the front end, and we'll plan it out. And Coach Witt is so good at that, at taking stories from his personal life or coaching in the past. And hey, guys, had an athlete, 10 years ago, we didn't do this. Well, we had that problem. Well, we started doing this. And what this guy's name is, and it's some NFL player or something. Like, oh yeah, he's a hell of a ball player. And he's like, yeah, I didn't create this ball player. I didn't make him some amazing athlete. We just attacked one issue that he had, and we saw the issue popping up with other guys, and we could attempt to not keep cascading that issue throughout a program. So we'll do that really well. And then what I think we do extremely well is during the program, say we're going to lift a really heavy weight, and we don't run rep max anymore. We use bar velocity, and we use tendos, things like that, to gauge true strength levels. And is it perfect? No, but it's really hard to explain to a head coach. Well, yeah, we were max benching, and my starting running back blew his pec out. It's like, that's really hard to explain. Like, oh boy, that's gonna end your career pretty quick. So we pivoted away from true one rep maxing and done bar speed. But when we do move weight at the lower rep scheme, the higher intensities, we'll bring them up before that set, and we'll refocus them. Because the energy's high in the room, guys are flying around, want to put weight in the bar, and maybe the spotters aren't locked in completely. Maybe, the technique, when it gets heavy and the adrenaline's high, they're going to lose technique, and they're going to not do the exercise the way we truly taught it. If we can refocus them and put them back in a space where, hey guys, yes, we're doing this. Yes, this is fun and exciting. Don't forget why we're doing this. And these are the smart ways to do it. This is how we teach it. And this is how I want it executed. And our entire program's based around details and execution. Like, there's a standard for everything. Every movement we do is taught to a very distinctive language and standard. So there's no gray area. And okay, this is what I expect. When you squat, this is what it looks like. When you clean, this is what it looks like. And when we do glute ham raises, this is what it looks like. And you adjust for guy to guy what they need, regression wise, or assistants or coaching cues that guy might take better. But we kind of, if it needs to happen before a big set like that, we'll bring them, blow the whistle, cut the music, bring them up. And almost like it's the first day we're ever doing the exercise, we'll re-demo it again. Hey guys, count it out, brace here, da 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 da, what you're talking about, and all these details of your program and your standards that you teach the guys. Most problems that you're going to have are because of the lack of communication or just unclear communication. And especially kids these days, I say these days, right? I'm 27. I act like, I've been doing this for 50 years, but the attention span is shorter. So how can I say what I want in a clear and concise manner where I have their attention, I get information across, I dial them back in, I give them the truthful reason of why we're doing this, so they can now go and execute at a high level. Because if they're thinking too much and they have to, paralysis by analysis, everything you're doing, you're not going to get the standard probably met, because they're just not going to have the same intensity or just drive to do it. They're going to analyze it too much rather than just go execute. You know what you're doing. Now just go do it. And it places a huge emphasis on clearly and concisely explaining and communicating standards and details and what we do. And we say it all the time. We'll break it down to any questions. That makes sense. And it's not we're not asking that in a rhetorical way. Our guys know that we're asking, does that make sense? And we want feedback. If a guy says, no, coach, I don't understand that, say, okay, sounds good. Let me find another way to explain this. Because, like you said, if that guy's bringing up that he doesn't understand it, probably somebody else doesn't understand it as well. So just that guy's the one vocalizing it. So that, okay, boom, we'll pivot and we'll teach this a different way. We'll use different verbiage, different cues to get out of it what we want. And it's been a huge part of our program in sustaining standards with the portal, with drastically different rosters from year to year, semester to semester, even. And once you have a standard you can set and consistently cultivate and develop and keep pushing to a better standard, you can get some consistency in what your product is out of the weight room.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to kind of hear like you guys actually take a practical approach to it and like even down to like breaking it down and like following up on questions and asking them like actually if it makes sense because oftentimes like I don't know if coaches like are naive to it or like I know I've fallen victim to just like the time commitment. Like you you came in like right on the hour, like we got to leave right on the next hour. There's another team coming in. It's may or may not be my team. Like you're pressed for time. So like the amount of time you're talking to like actually like get that stuff to sink in and really execute on those finer details, you also like I understand that, well, we have to train too. Like my job is to train, like not to preach to them. I can't be at the board too long. So like whatever the questions have to be, like this does have to be clear and concise, but I don't want you to go into it with a lack of understanding and then like poorly execute something and get hurt because then that again that falls on me as well. But that's I think that's a great way, especially like refocusing after max days. And like we've seen some of those ones like they're just over the top like hype days, which are great. Like whatever you want to do to like kind of build it up and like show some significance to it. But no one's ever I've never heard anybody like talk about like, okay, well, now you can't be so overstimulated that after we like do something like this, like even if it's using the tendos and trying to find like a max or whatever you want to do for it, if we have more to be done during the day or practices after there's like more to the lift, like you can't be at that same intensity for it. And
Yeah.
you also like need to know that you're executing it still the right way when it's like over 100% of what you've normally done before. So that's a great approach to like make sure that they're dialed in, but also you reel them back when like you've seen how high they're like they're redlining at that point. You
Yeah.
can't redline it for something else.
Eventually that you go over that line and you're like, oh boy. And that's, I mean, you said, guy gets hurt, you're responsible for it. That's your job. It's your room. You're the coach. So at every level of our staff, we put a premium, and our director does, from director to intern, act as if you are the head strength coach of that rack. I mean, you run it, and no detail can be overlooked. And every guy is just so different that yes, we need the intensity, we need all these things to go, but at the end of the day, the work's the work, and you got to be really smart about how you're doing it because if you're doing say it's a big bench day, well, you still have another 30-35 minutes of work to do after that bench day. So you can't just get them off the rails for this bench number and then go waste 30-35 minutes the rest of the workout, because the accessory work after those days is so important. And you have to get it in because everything we do matters. And we preach all the time, quality over quantity. Because we've done it multiple times in 3 years where we've planned on doing 9 things that day and we've only done 6. And we would rather come in and do 6 things incredibly well and at an elite level with high standards and intensity and focus and urgency, rather than try to fly through things really quick. And well, we checked the box. We did post chain work. Did they really do it? I mean, they kind of just laid down a couple times and popped up because we only had 5 minutes to get in 4 sets. It's like, all right, no, we need to make sure we're doing things the right way at the right standard for the outcome we actually want. Because at that point, if we're not doing it with standards and doing it the right way, what are we doing? We're wasting time at that point. You only get so many hours in a week. So if you start wasting half hours at a time, oh boy, you're gonna fall behind pretty quick.
Yeah, actually doing it to standard to actually get the outcome that you're trying to and get the adaptation you're trying to elicit with the training, that's important. And it's always, I think young coaches do it, and I still fall victim to it because you're trying to squeeze as much time out of it, especially like kind of the level that I'm at, working with some of the teams and the size of the weight room and everything. Like you're trying to get as much out of the time you're allotted. With football, like and basketball, like some of the higher levels, you get so much more time on your end because they see the value in it. I mean,
Right.
obviously, from just having so many support staff or coaches actually handpicking their strength coaches for it. Like my staff, like all the staffs that I work, like I could have been their last choice or their first choice. It didn't matter. Like my job is to facilitate multiple teams. So whatever they give me as time to work with the players is what I get. Sometimes it interferes with it, so I just have the time I have. So I try to get as much out of it as possible. But I've fallen victim to like, well, we got to get this in because I won't see you guys for another week. Like you're going to be on the road. I'm not going to see this. Like I don't want to do all these exercises, but sometimes like kind of do it. But I'd much rather stick to the point where you talk about like, can we do things as well as possible? Because I can easily chop off a couple of these exercises and we'll still accomplish the mission for the day. And it's we're better for it than just lazily getting through everything and then, hey, whatever you can get in the last 5 minutes, just get it done. We got to go.
Yep. It's a, and we're spoiled, and I get it. In just the football realm, where we have one team, and yeah, it's 125 guys. Well, 100 guys now. That roster is changing, but you get spoiled, and like you have this team, and that's the only team to think about, and only these times, and these outcomes, and these athletes. So, we're fortunate that that's the bucket we're in, and that's the world that we coach in, and we still fall victim to the same thing. You have these great ideas, this progression, this program, or what you want to run in this day in this block. And you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to get all this in, and we're going to get these 9 exercises in. And we're going to do all this. We're going to squat, and we're going to jump, and we're going to do these things. And you get a set in the jumps, and you're like, this is a disaster. Like, oh boy, all right. Maybe I was a little overzealous in what we wanted to do here. And sometimes you roll with it and you try to get out as much as you can. And sometimes you can cut it you can cut the head off at that point and just cut it and focus on one aspect of it. And we've done it both ways multiple times where we've had something programmed and we've met on it a million times that this is the best thing we could do for our guys at this point. And we start running it and we start going and it turns into just a quagmire. We're like, oh boy, this is not how we thought this was going to go. And we've had times where we've just gotten through the day and then the rest of the program, we go card by card and cross it off. We're like, nope, we're not doing that. Like that's done. Like it did not work out the way we intended it to. And then sometimes you can reel them in and it gets better the second time, but it's again one of those, you got to make a decision and ride with it. Whatever it is, you got to commit to it and show that, have the humility, I should say, in front of your guys. Say, hey guys, we wanted to do this. Turns out this is just not what we wanted out of this. And I think our athletes respond really well to the human nature and having the humility of, yeah, guys, I'm the expert and we're doing this. This is not going the way I wanted it to. I was wrong. We're going to cut that. We're going to do something else. And I think it shows to the guys like, hey, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, and so am I. And we're all going to learn from it. We're going to move on and find a better plan of attack and go execute it down the road some other way.
Yeah, and I've always kind of questioned sometimes when I put a program together, and obviously like when I put a program together, like I'm kind of by myself. I'll run ideas with everybody, but like I'm not sitting in kind of a war room and have like 5 coaches on staff trying to work with a whole team like to project for the whole year, even if you have your own specific position group and you guys are kind of doing your own thing. Like for me, I have to run the ideas back and forth, but I've always toyed with the idea. It was like, why don't I just put less on the paper and then I can always add some in. And I've done the opposite thought process, like let me put everything in and it's easy to cross stuff out. And I finally like kind of situated on let me put the most ideal thing together as if we're not there's no practice. Like There's nothing that's going to interfere. Like I have whatever it is, my baseball team, I have 42 robots. They're going to go to school. They're going to get 9 hours of sleep. They're going to eat perfectly. They're going to go to batting practice. They're going to come here. They're going to do this, and they're going to be fine every single day. Because it's easier for me some days to like to what you said, have some humility and be like, we're going to take this off. Like I see how you guys are reacting from the warm up. Like we don't need this. And there's some days it's like, okay, I talked for a long time. We need to speed up on the back end. And there's some days where like, all right, you need a kick in the ass. Like you
Yeah.
guys, you guys dicked around at practice, and now this is what we have to do on the back end because you messed up the day before, and someone has to be accountable for what this is. So it leaves a lot of room for, again, more explanation and kind of giving the why behind what we're doing and relaying like and having some good communication, the intention of what's going on, but you also speak to kind of the human side of like, hey, you guys don't need this today, but we're gonna have to get in at some point. Like this isn't all like sunshine and rainbows, and I'm just gonna chop off exercises every day because you're a little bit sore. But at least they understand, like, hey, this is the main plan, this is what we're supposed to be doing, but I'm going to make the adjustment for the betterment and with your guys's like development and recovery in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you have to be flexible. I don't know how you could do this job at any level, any school, any team, at all, without looking at the whole picture and looking at what they're doing in their entire day. And now we program for the elite level. We program for the elite guys, and then we'll adjust things for guys who can't do that, on a needs basis, because there's five of us in the room, which is huge. So we see everybody train. We see all of our groups. They're small enough where we're actually coaching every guy rather than just, hey, here's 70 guys in the room. Here's the card. And hope it goes well. Like, hope you did every set. Hope you did every rep. And you have to adjust. And then also, what I think is so important is you have to empower your guys to lead each other. And we say it all the time where coach-led teams can be good, but player-led teams are great. Because eventually I'm at the head of the room or I'm giving a speech and I've given enough speeches and I've been yelling in your ear for the past 6 months. Eventually they're just like, yeah, like it's just, I've heard your voice getting on my butt about the same thing for the past 6 months, and you lose some of that bite. But if you have a team or other players hold the same standard that you do and see the whole picture, they coach each other. We do a thing in the summer when we squat. We call it our perfect squat day. It's our perfect drive. And it's 7 sets of 2 or 3. It's not this crazy volume, but it can turn into some crazy volume because we're doing it with a tendo. We're doing it to a box. And if you don't hit the speed, we start that set over again. And we go back to set 4. We'll be on set 4 all day. We don't care. We'll just keep doing it. And the weight's light enough and it's done properly. Like it's not like it's off the cuff and we're just gonna go bury these guys and not be smart about it. And they don't know that, but we're doing the math in our head and we're paying attention. But it drives home this point where, we're a couple weeks into doing this and it can get pretty grueling. It's a Friday. It's the last day of the week for work. We just ran in the morning. Now we're coming to do our squat day, getting our perfect drive in, and we've had 11 restarts. And you're like, wow, and you look at it, well, why are we restarting? Well, did the machine malfunction? Is it some weird piece? And like sometimes, yeah, technology, sometimes it doesn't work. And you watch it live and you're like, yeah, that wasn't at 0.4, right? That was clearly faster. Like I got it. Yeah, we're good, But then we get guys that, they miss a speed. Say it needs to be 0.7, they hit 0.68, and I didn't see it. Everyone's going at the same time and you're running around and flying around and just coaching your face off, and a teammate sees another teammate not hit the speed and they call each other out like, hey, we didn't hit it. Like, nope, we missed it. Coach, blow the whistle. Like, we can start over again. And once you start to see the players lead each other and hold each other to a standard and to the urgency that you need to compete and to win, that's what it takes. Because on the football field, it's the same thing. I'm a strength coach. I don't coach football. You could turn my title to bench press coach. I mean, sounds good. I got, that's the world I'm in. But the coaches can't be on the field on Saturday with them. They can't line you up. They can't get the right footwork, and you got to go play. And your teammates are the ones you have to rely on. So we create a system when we train where we might see a guy make a mistake, and we saw another guy see him make that mistake, and we don't say anything just to see if that guy will speak up and not be a friend, be a good teammate, which isn't always being a good friend, or the nice friend, I should say, and say, hey, man, that wasn't good enough. Hey, coach, we missed it. Let's go back and do it again. And that way you're creating leaders that they've chosen by themselves. Because if you force a leader upon somebody or just this, with an iron fist, it'll work for a while. But eventually, when the game gets hard and you need your teammates out there to have your back or someone to lead, and it's only been a coach leading, it's going to fall apart. And you're going to have a moment where it's going to all come crumbling down. So we put a huge emphasis on player-led standards and accountability. And, if we see a guy miss it, the guy saw him miss it and didn't call it out, we'll move on with the set and we'll bring him up and not call a guy out. Not standing from the group like, well, Chris didn't say that, that Jason missed. Well, yeah, that's not what happened. But say, hey, we're letting things slide. We ourselves are allowing our standard to drop. And if you don't think that carries over on the football field, you're crazy. Like if you see a guy making a mistake, you call him out. And if you make a mistake, you better hope they call you out too. Because it's going to create this world where, and I say it to our guys all the time, everybody's training, everybody's lifting, everybody's running, jumping, sprinting, throwing, catching, whatever, right? Some variation of that program. Everyone's doing it. Eventually on the field, the athletic talent gap will close. And it's not going to be where I'm just bigger, stronger, faster, and better at the sport. And it's going to happen in some games, and it's a part of the sport. But eventually, in some game, in some week, that gap's going to close. And you have to have something more of a backbone to your program than just athletic development. You have to have a team that has grit and has trust and has a love for each other more than just, hey, I want these stats or I want to go to the NFL. I want to see my teammates succeed. I want to see this organization succeed because I'm a part of it and I care about it. So we put this massive emphasis on, guys, it's going to be a trench fight one day. It's going to be a game where it's 1 point, we have the ball, and we got to go 80 yards for a touchdown. And you got to find it somewhere because you haven't done it all day, and we have to do it now. We don't have a choice. And if you've been letting things slide and letting player accountability to each other fall to the back burner, there's just no way you're going to get it done. Because at that point, they don't trust each other to get it done. They haven't been through hard things together. And it's a huge piece of our program. And we'll start at January 13th. We will start rolling that day one immediately where, yeah, we have leaders returning and they'll take up the gauntlet, same as they did last year. But every year you need new leaders. You need other people to step up and mature and develop into these great players and leaders that you were hoping they would be when you recruited them. And the development of young men is more important than the weight room number development, if that makes sense.
No, that's awesome. That makes complete sense. It restarts kind of in January. So
Yep.
New team, everything, like it's completely different. Like it's great that you guys like emphasize that stuff because you're right. Like eventually you can't just rely on athleticism. Like at the end of the day, like a lot of these plays, like a lot of these bowl games, these conference games too, like come down to the wire. They're coming down to close, like small details. So if you're not harping on that stuff all the time, because what you're going to see with an athlete, like someone that's kind of messing around and trying to cut corners in the weight room is probably doing the same thing on the field, probably doing the same thing in the classroom. So I don't see why like there's not cause and effect, whatever. Like you'll see a correlation between an athlete trying to get better in the weight room and work on the details, even if they're not the most skillful. You'll see it translate on the weight room. You'll see it translate in other aspects of their life. So the more you hold them accountable and then build it to the point where the players are holding themselves accountable and policing each other, the better they are for it, whether it's on or off the field. So that's a great way to do it. But kind of now you turn the clock back and you start over with a new season. And you kind of joked about it. I don't remember, it was before we started going or now, but like you might be working with like a fresh whole new team. Like half the team is going to be new, just like between transfer portal, NIL rules, just kind of the nature of college football and the beast that it is right now. So with that kind of in mind and trying to work with maybe returning captains, new leadership, guys stepping into like higher demand roles on the team, and then working with potentially a lot of incoming players, whether transfers or new freshmen, like how do you kind of establish these standards and baselines with it? Is it up to the players right away to kind of do that? Is it kind of formal where you're like, hey, this is all the expectations of the program, and you just kind of reintroduce it to the old players and it's a first introduction to the new ones? How do you guys kind of approach that when January 13 comes in so that you're not just jumping into the weight room? They know the expectations, or they're at least reminded them of them again.
Yeah, it's every year it feels like it's different and how you approach it just because the personalities are so different. But at the same time, every team has their, coming back from break team meeting, and here's new players are there. And if it's new coaches or the same staff, and, the head coach explains expectations of the program. And this is what we do. This is how we're going to do it. Excited. And you get, all the hype and hurrah of coming back and being fresh and being excited. And we go up into the same thing. Guys, these are the expectations and standards of our room and our department, whether it's how they dress in the weight room, how they treat coaches or athletic trainers or support staff at all, you know, the standards of our movements, and we brush it quickly in that meeting. And then we revisit it with every group on day one, as if even our guys have been there for 4 years, we've known forever. They're great players. They hold the standard. They're the top tier guys. You don't have to coach anymore. They coach themselves and they handle it. We treat everybody like it's their first day in the room. So that way, when you're trying to reestablish standards of your organization, everybody is still on that same playing field. It's equal in the sense of, I don't care how veteran and how talented and how important you are to this program. The standard is the standard, and it will never change. So it allows the older guys to say, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm an older guy, but let me remember this is what we're doing. This is why we do it." And then it sets up the younger guys for, this is what I'm expecting to have. This is what I expect every single day to be like. Now, we call it wave time. You're 10 minutes early to everything. Team meeting, a meal, treatment, weight room, a run. It doesn't matter what it is. Wave time, 10 minutes early. And we'll start some things 10 minutes early. And if you're not there at 10 minutes early, you're late. So it creates this sense of the standard, and the way we operate is here for a reason, and it's for your benefit. And sometimes I don't like calling them rules. That seems it turns into like a judgment process. Well, you broke the rules, and you can get some little bit of, some fight on the back end. I like calling them standards. These are our standards. And you can tell a kid, hey, not that you don't meet the standard, but the action you just performed doesn't meet the standards of what we do as an organization. So then we can address actions rather than people. And it can separate them from, hey, man, I love you and I care about you, but what you just did just does not add up to our standard. And it's not the way we operate. And, now the accountability in the back end exists. And it creates this sense of buy-in where everybody is beholden to the standard. There is no faltering out. I mean, we have guys that are 5-year starters. They've been in it forever. They've been rolling around. They played over, 3,000 snaps in their career. And you're like, well, like if he's late, he's late. And accountability is accountability. And a freshman walks in and he sees a veteran starting a random position, like a starting center. Well, he was late. All right, man, accountability. Here it is. And the freshman sees it like, oh boy, It really doesn't matter if I'm the man or I'm the 100th guy on the roster. If we're not the same standard and we're not addressing this from the very first 5 minutes we're together, it's going to leak out somewhere. And also, you got to have a coaching staff upstairs that hold the standard. And I think here it's so important. I think what makes this organization so special and so successful is from the top down at every single position, every single staff member, in every way, the standard is expected. And that's just the precursor. But the standard isn't the ceiling, it's the ground floor. The standard can always be raised. The details can always be better. And we'll always be in pursuit of that. But everybody in the building understands that the standards that we've set to be successful have to be met by staff members as well. And so it's like, okay, yeah, we have fantastic coaches who are elite teachers of their craft, but they're also incredible leaders and mentors of young men where if they make a mistake in here, the coaches know about it. If they make a mistake out there, we know about it. And we're always on the same page. There's no lapse in information or flow through the organization. So our coaching staff does such a good job giving us the reins to where, hey, coach, we want to have these standards. It's like, sounds good. Every other coach, you hear that? You guys understand this is the standard the strength staff has set. If we're out at drills and helping them out or whatever we're doing, we are beholden to that standard too. And the same for us. Like the football staff said, this is our standard for what we're doing. If we're around helping and we're seeing it, like we hold it too. And we have to be accountable for their standard as well. So there's always overlap in our understanding of the direction of our organization.
Yeah, that's huge. Having that overlap and understanding that everybody is working in this kind of the same direction. Everybody's on the same page with all those things. That's huge. And you're like you said, it comes from the top. And it's hard for strength staff to enforce those things or uphold those standards if there's no buy-in from the rest of the coaching staff, because an athlete's always going to listen to them first. Like they're the one that dictates their playing time. They came to Tulane or wherever they're at to play football or play whatever their given sport is. Like they didn't come to lift with the strength staff. Like
Yep.
you're an extension of them, but it has to be the same message coming across from everybody. But to understand that like everybody's beholden to the same standard, everybody's accountable to that. And whether you're a freshman, you're a support staff member, you're an intern, whatever it is, like everybody has to do this. This is the bottom line. This is the base floor. This is where we're starting. That's huge. And I think, like you said too, like even changing the verbiage, like these are standards, not rules. Like, and it's for the betterment of you and for the benefit too of the athlete and of the organization of the team. Like that already in itself is a step in the right direction to know that, hey, everybody should be doing the right thing at all times. Like it's not about breaking the rules. It's about whatever your action was. You're not a bad person, but the action is not fall in line with what our goals are and what we uphold ourselves to as a member of this team and this organization. So it's a great way to start. And obviously, like from day one, like I've always thought that's the best time to do it. And I get flack. I think you probably get the same thing sometimes from like a fifth year. You get a grad student or someone coming in like, oh, it's the same spiel again. I was like, yeah, but what you just said is key. Like, if you're going to say no one's above these standards and no one's above like whatever like stipulations and accountability we have in place, then the same goes for me, like reiterating our standard again. Like, it shouldn't be a problem for you to hear it. Honestly, you could be the one up here kind of preaching those standards because you're part of the one that upholds it. Everybody on that staff, every athlete there should be upholding the standards if we agree upon them. I think that's the difference between rules and everything. Rules kind of like get just dictated down like this. It's almost a transactional process versus it's a partnership and we're kind of working together as a team and organization. So that's great. That's awesome to kind of hear that stuff and how you guys approach it. Is there anything that's kind of had to change in that process? Maybe not with your standards and everything, but just negotiating kind of this ever-changing like collegiate atmosphere, especially for college football. It's the Wild West right now, and I'm sure like as we're recording this, four rules have probably changed. So how do you guys like keep up with that stuff? Is it just compliance telling you what to do? Like, what do you guys kind of how do you take a practical approach to like making sure you're doing everything that falls within the rules and like you guys are giving the best to your athletes that are there? Because you can't like be stuck in the weeds like recruiting and stuff. You guys are just you need to do your jobs and there's only a finite amount of time to do that.
Right. I mean, you just said it perfectly. You got to do your job. And that's what I think in part in this profession, some people are getting themselves in the weeds where you can help other people accomplish their job. And that's different. That's just being a good teammate and working with somebody else. And they need help and you help. But once you start overstepping to another department where I'm now going to take your responsibility and make it my own, I think you start to see a crack in what is your role? Like, what do you do here? What is your job? Like everyone says it now, it's a cliche kind of line, but do your job. And everyone kind of now it's this big thing. And, Belichick kind of came out and pretty successful, a lot of Super Bowls. So probably works. But, with rules change and processes change, I think the way we combat it really well is we're an open book, to our players and why we do things and how we go about our process and our standards, that nothing's never communicated. Like there's always a clear expectation. And if we don't know it for certain, I can't hold you to a standard that isn't black and white, so there can be no ambiguity in your programming, in your process. So we meet with compliance and we talk to coaches and we meet with administrators and make sure, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And yes, this is okay. You're good. You're not going to cross a line doing whatever it is you're doing, but making sure that if there's a moment where, hey, I don't like what that guy just did, or I don't think that's to the standard. Well, do you not think, or do you know that's not the standard? Because if I don't know and I'm setting the standard, well, they definitely can't know. There's no way he has any idea. If I don't know it, he can't know. I'm supposed to know. That's my job. So you have to, again, have the humility where something happens and you approach a guy for clarification, like, hey, man, this is what I saw. This is what you did. This isn't the right way to do it. Why? Why did that happen? And, they give a reason. And sometimes you're like, yeah, buddy, that's a terrible reason. And I know that's not it. Here we go. We'll handle that everywhere we need to. But more often than you would think, it pops up where, hey, coach, I did that because X, Y, and Z happened. And I thought this. It's like, oh, well, I see why you did what you did now, because I thought this standard was clear, but apparently it's not. And like you said earlier, if one guy's vocalizing it, somebody else probably has the same idea and is probably also confused. So whenever that happens, we make sure first thing, the next time we team together, hey guys, let's clarify this standard. Let's make sure we are all on the same page. And talk to the coaches upstairs, like, hey, we had the standard, this happened. No, we're not going to have an issue with this kid. This is our fault. We didn't communicate this clearly. This is on us. We'll get it fixed and we'll move on from there. And if you can keep that line of communication honest and clear, it kind of cleans up the other issues for you, because then players themselves, if they lead themselves and lead each other, hey, if the standard's not clear, someone else will ask on behalf of another athlete before the athlete does something, or, hey, coach, I want to make sure we're good to do this. And you sit back like, oh, no, please don't do that. That's crazy. Let's make sure we're doing things the right way. And then you can nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem. So, luckily I'm a strength coach. I'm not a football coach, and we recruit, we do all that stuff, and it's incredibly important. And nowadays you better have that ability. But I think what makes recruiting for us in this department, and I should say this entire organization, so easy, is that I don't have to stand in front of a potential player and tote some company line of nonsense. Like there's just no smoke and mirrors. Like, hey guys, listen, this is how we do stuff. This is how we train. This is how organization runs. This is why we do the things that we do it. And if you have questions, ask away, and we'll answer anything you want to know. But when you walk in here day one, if you decide to come here, what I explained to you is going to be exactly what happens when you walk in the door on that first day. So you start to cultivate a process of these are the kinds of kids we're looking for, character wise. And is it just the game for them? Or is it also, I want to be a better man. I want to be a better human being. Because if you invest in your athletes as human beings, not just as a number on the field, the return on the field will come, and that will happen tenfold. So it has to be this level of, I'm not doing this job because I have some ego where I need to be the guy and I developed that guy. And look at what he's doing in the NFL. Look, he's so amazing. Like, well, you hope you helped. I hope I helped you in some manner, but you're probably genetically pretty gifted if you're going to make it there. So you probably had that coming to you. If you maximized it to any degree, you're probably going to get there. So if you can put yourself in this frame of mind where you can take the ego out of it and communicate what you do completely truthfully. And this is what we do it. This is what we do. This is why we do it. And this is the outcome of what happens if you buy into this. You start to kind of cut away the problems with, well, this rule changed overnight. And some schools kind of get caught with their pants down, like, oh boy, that's not good. That rule changed. I was like, well, we don't really have that problem because this isn't a death march. Like, we're training to play football. This isn't a punishment. We're trying to develop you guys into better football players and better young men. So we can kind of fight off that while we have to readjust all the time because the game, or at least the outside of the game, the politics around the game keep changing. But the game itself is the same game. The field is the same dimensions it's been for a long time. First down, still 10 yards. Like it's still the same thing. So you find ways to communicate clearly and truthfully and concisely with your guys that just kind of, it empowers them to be better for each other rather than you trying to drag them forward, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think with the way you kind of talk about that and like kind of being upfront and honest with what the expectations are, the standards, especially like if we're just talking potential athletes that are considering coming to your guys' organization and being a part of the team, like the more you're able to like show them like with no ambiguity, like this is what we're about. Like this is the expectation when you get here. This is the things that we're going to do. This is what you can expect from us. This is what we expect from you in return. Like that should weed out 99% of the athletes that you don't want right there. Like, and then maybe some come in and they have a change of heart, something happens, like, and they come to the program and they leave after a year. But for the most part, you should be getting in when you're upfront and honest about that stuff. You should be getting in the ones that are exactly tailored and dialed into what you want. They want what you're saying because when they get in day one, what you promised them is what you're going to deliver on. And that's a great thing. And then also, like, to not be so worried about like all these constant changes happening, like it goes to show that you guys aren't looking for a rule change to find a loophole. Like the game for the most part is not changing. Like it's the same field size, it's the same dimensions, like the same rules apply for the most part all the time. So just focus on the mission and the task at hand, and the rest of the stuff is going to take care of itself. Like other people can worry about that too. Like
It's everything. I've been fortunate enough in my path as profession, which is a different path than I think what most strength coaches go through. I went to Merrimack, did my undergrad, interned around, went to Army, interned, then was hired on full time, then went to Illinois full time, went to Troy full time, and now here, where I got to meet some pretty incredible leaders. And it kind of piggybacked off of growing up seeing these incredibly successful coaches and mentors where the kids come back now 50 years later and they're, husbands and fathers, and they're incredibly successful and they're doing things the right way. And they look back and laugh like, dang, coach made us do this. And that really sucked when we did it. But I get it. I get why we did those things. And you have this buy-in where you can you can teach to your athletes that the easy way out probably isn't the right way to do it. And there's going to be hard things to do. And this game can give you everything and then can take it all away too. So you have to value your time and being where you are and how you got there, and being thankful and being appreciative of all of the things that go into on a Saturday, you getting to play a game. It's a game for 3 hours. It's a game you love, and it's intense and it's hard, but at the end of the day, it's a game. So, being in the field for the time that I've been in, and I didn't go to grad school. I was fortunate enough to get a full-time job at Army, and, those coaches put their neck on the line for me and stood on a table and said, he doesn't have a master's, doesn't have these other things, but I want him on the staff, and I'll forever be grateful because they put their own neck on the line to give me an opportunity, and then got to see what it looked like from the coaching side, not just the player side or being a kid seeing coaches, where these are the background conversations of cultivating successful elite organizations. Like, this is what it looks like. This is how you're going to get there. Where some strength coaches in this profession, and not that that's a wrong way at all, it's kind of the normal flow of you do your undergrad, go to grad school, and you try to get a job after that and work your way up. Or that 2 years of where I would have been in grad school, or some schools 1 year, okay, I have to find that development in the field another way. And I'll Connor Hughes at Army, he's always like, stop talking about me. He's like, leave me alone. But I got to see a coach who could not have cared less about his own name or, his own stature, his own accolades. And he would always say, in your organization, if everybody knows in public who the strength coach is, it's probably not a good reason. Usually it's ended because they make it about themselves. There's something in it, like they're putting themselves above a program or an organization, or above the kid. Because your most valuable resource is the player. Like, that's what you're there for. If there's no players, no coaches. So if you're not investing in them and becoming a better coach and a better man for those kids, then what are you doing it for? And that's not the point of this. Like, that's why you got into this. So I was fortunate enough to be with Coach Hughes, and then our director, Rusty Witt, we met at Army West Point, and he brought me on staff at Troy a couple years later. I mean, you want to talk about standards of execution. I mean, he was a United States Army, he was a Green Beret. He's Special Forces, like at the elite level of any organization you could imagine, where, yeah, it is life and death. It is that serious. Like, you're doing real stuff that there are real drastic consequences of upholding the standard, doing things the right way, and then also caring about who's around you. So I think in this program, we get to see, I've gotten to see over the past 3 years, an elite level of leadership and character development processes. Like, okay, this is how we do it, and this is why. And like, these are the reasons why. Again, I said earlier, if there's any ambiguity, it's going to find a hole somewhere. It's going to be a weak link in that chain somewhere. And usually it comes from a lack of communication or a lack of clear standards. So it kind of carries over and does such a great job with our team, which I think gives us an upper hand in the world of the transfer portal, in the world of having this drastic number of new players every year. Well, yeah, the game, how you get to the game is changing. So you better have a consistency of how you develop teams, organizations, and develop young men, where you're putting them in the best position possible for themselves to succeed. And that's a huge piece that I was fortunate to learn pretty early on, which I think a lot of, and just by happen chance, I was at the right place at the right time and did my job around fantastic leaders in this field and got to see what it looks like to really run a program that's focused on the athletes and not focused on, the me that I think starts to rear its ugly head in this field in some certain ways. And you see it all the time. You're like, man, this isn't about you. Like, you're not playing on Saturday. Like, this isn't your game. Like, don't talk about yourself. Talk about the kids. Like, the kids are doing the amazing things. Like, there's a million more of me, and there's not a million more of them in this organization. So you have to have this elite level of consistency. And we get in that portal world where we're going to get a bunch of new guys in January 13th, and they're we met with all of them, we talked to them, we've established our standard, we've told them in the visits like, hey guys, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. And if you think it's a fit, sounds good, man. If you don't, sounds good. Good luck. Hope it works out. Wherever you're going, and hope good things for you. But when you come in that first day and it's always consistent and there's just no change in the standards, it takes some pressure off the outside of getting to the game and how that's changing and how the process of creating a team, it just continues to change every year, every month, really. I mean, it changes so much, and if you have a strength staff in the back end that actually helps your coaching staff out, keeping certain things off of their desk, they can do their job to the highest level that they can. It just, you see this machine start to get rolling, and you see the buy-in happen quicker. You see success quicker, and you see this consistency of, hey man, we're going to go win. Like, we're not here to play games. We're here to win games. That's the purpose of this organization. And once you establish that, you can fight off a lot of the issues with inconsistency with just how, the NIL and transfer portal world kind of works now.
Yeah, you're right. Like, not being so worked up about all those rule changes and like trying to find the best players and stuff. You're trying to find the right players. And I think the same thing goes for like a staff too. Like, even like to your point, like you say, you're at the right place at the right time. Like, that might be so, but still, like, you've got people defending you to try to bring you on, even if you don't go to grad school. And I'm not going to argue if that's the best path or not,
Yeah.
because I think there's so many different ways to it.
Right.
But being able to see if a player thinks, like, be upfront with what your guys are doing, what the expectations are from both parties getting into it. And if they want to be there, great. If they don't want to be there, great too. Like, it might not have been the best fit, but when they get in, like, if they trust the process, you develop the players, like, you're instilling discipline, establish, and you're kind of defending your standards like day in, day out. It doesn't matter what happens with the transfer portal and the changes. Like, you're doing your job and you're getting the players that you have, the players that committed to you to get to the best possible way to be successful and compete and win games. So if you're so focused on the other outside factors, you're not going to spend as much time as you can like actually working on those things. So I think you guys are taking a great approach to it, and it's hard for me to say because, like, from the outside perspective, there's not a lot of teams that like seem to do that. Like, you kind of always know, and like being at West Point yourself, like, you kind of know that the service academies are kind of known for that, because it's a lot of times they go into it and it's going to be a dogfight because on paper they look like they're the lesser skilled team a lot of times. And some of these other programs that are coming up and, like, quote unquote, they're the underdog or the lesser like talent, less star like recruited players, they're punching like bigger schools in the mouth because they're detail oriented, like they bring the right kids in with good character. And yeah, it might be a close game or they might get beat in the end, but like, they're proving to everybody that like talent is not going to win all the time. And what you guys do is going to have players coming back 50 years from now. And that's not even a temporary buy-in. Like, they're bought in for life. And it transcends like what they're doing in the weight room, because all those things that you tried to work on with them to develop them for a better player also were a byproduct and made them a better individual as well. And that's a testament to what you guys are doing and like the amount of detail and thought process you put behind like what your words are, what the program is, and like how you kind of have those conversations with the players. So that's my hats off to you guys. I think that's awesome, and that's why you guys have been successful, I think, for continued years. The one thing I wanted to kind of touch on too, like you talked about like kind of that different approach, maybe not going to grad school and like having a full-time job like in that position. Like you've been at multiple schools like as an assistant, like on a football staff, and I think most people listening know like at those bigger schools for football, like five strength coaches, like full time or the staff that you have. So you kind of have a team behind like the coaches that are working in the weight room, kind of working on the development and like really the cornerstone of that developmental off season. So like in your opinion, what kind of makes like a successful like member of that like football strength coaching staff and how do you guys kind of collaborate and work together behind the scenes before you actually get out on the floor with the players?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look back to my time at Army, and it's kind of funny going from school to school. I haven't been at a single place where there's a person on the staff I wouldn't want to go have a beer with because you're going to spend a lot of time together. I mean, just between February to August, like your head's going to be in the sand. Like that's your season. Like that's your time to shine. Like that's your go time. So okay, if I'm going to be in this room with these five guys every day from 4 a.m. to whenever in the afternoon it's over, there has to be something beyond just the staff coaching or programming that makes you want to be a part of that room. And you develop bonds and friendships with coaches and staff members and other support staff too, but especially in the strength staff where your personalities mesh together long before your programming meshes together. You know, I had an assistant of mine interview at a school, and at the time he was a GA, you know, so he getting through with looking for his first full-time job and trying to get himself set up. And he's a heck of a coach. His name's Nick Bell. He's awesome. And he's going to be a fantastic coach in this field. And the coach didn't ask him a single programming question, not one. And the entire time they talked and interviewed, they asked him, like, you know, what's his favorite book? Like, what would you rather read? Like, you want to watch a show? What are you watching at night? You know, what are you doing on the weekend? Well, I need to know if that person is a fit long before is that coach the right fit. Because at the end of the day, you can adjust your look and how you coach, how you program, how you progress things. Like if the head guy wants it a certain way, and especially a young coach, you can develop and teach guys different things. You can mold a guy to fit programming and coaching wise to fit what you need. But at the end of the day, if the personality of that coach doesn't fit the staff that you're on or what you're could be missing from that staff, because everybody has such a different, you know, skill set. Everyone brings something different to the table. Everyone has a different value to your staff. And it takes a good director to say, okay, these are my strengths and this is where I fall short. I need to bring a guy in that fills the holes to make the staff complete and then fits the personality of the staff that we're on. So I've been fortunate everywhere I've been to be with great people, like great coaches who just, we work well together. We share an office for 12 hours a day for 8 months. And at no point in time, it's like, wow, I wish he wasn't sitting there. Like, wow, I can't talk to this guy anymore. This is brutal. Yeah, I never had that once. And if you're looking as a young coach and you're interviewing at places, I think what's more important than finding a logo or a division level or a conference or, you know, a programming you're trying to find, you need to find a staff that you fit in personality wise. You need to find a staff where you genuinely enjoy spending time with each other. We preach family constantly, and we break it down on family like almost every day. Our whole team does, from practice or whatever we're doing. And a lot of places have that line and do not preach it whatsoever. And it's kind of this weird cliche that's happened now in our profession and in this game, where you can find the teams who say it and don't preach it pretty quickly. And it becomes evident very fast. At no point in time do I find myself guarding my desk. Like, make sure it doesn't move. Like, hold it down really quick. I'm here for 6 hours just with nothing to do and just existing in this building. At the end of the day, if you do that, you're not going to coach very well. You're going to get pretty burnt out pretty quick, or just bored. And I think being bored is worse than being burnt out. Like, you can be burnt out and still care, but if you're bored, oh man, like, you're not going to coach well, and you're just not going to do your job. You're just not going to do it to the best of your ability. So, like, if there's times where someone has a family thing going on, or, it's a Saturday and it's open hours, like, hey, coach, I want to, go see some family or do whatever I'm doing or something going on. It's like, yeah, man, get out of here. Like, I don't need you sitting here. Like, they pay me for that. Like, go home. Like, you don't need to sit here. I'm not going to, like, hey, intern, sit on this couch and wait for the next 8 hours. Like, that's crazy. Come in, do the work, and when we're done, go home, man. Get out of here. I'll handle other things that need to arise and meet with administration or coaches or scheduling or playing or whatever we're doing. But you need to realize that the job's the job, but the person behind the job is much more important than the job itself. Because at the end of the day, I get fired today. Well, they have to have somebody in my job. Like, they can't just not have a position filled. They're going to fill it in a week. Like, boom, it's over. So you better be on a staff where you feel that you're valued as a human being as well as valued as a professional. And that's a huge piece of what this organization is. I mean, there's so many times a player comes in like, hey, coach, X, Y, and Z's going on. Yeah, we had this workout, whatever day. I got to get out of here. And if you've done it the right way and you've shown you care about them, they say, hey, can I make it up before I leave? And you're like, heck yeah, man. Like, I'll stay late. Let's get it done. Let's get the extra workout. Let's get this run day and let's get this lifted. Let's get it in. Where you've cultivated a culture, not just in your staff, but in your players and your program, where life happens. And it's going to happen regardless of whether we're in the weight room or not and we're training. And your players and your staff know that there's value outside of just how much can you bench and squat and clean and how many touchdowns do you score. And you got to have a family. You got to care about each other. Like, we have coaches who get married and every coach at the wedding, and they do not need to be there. Like, there's a lot of staffs or guys would not show up. Like, I don't like this guy. I don't want to be there. But, have a coach get married and every single coach is there and excited, and actually wants to be there and excited for that person. So you get an investment in people's lives rather than purely them as a coach. And I think it pays off dividends when you're a young coach and you're always hungry to learn more about programming and cueing and coaching and all progressions, all these things. But you make an investment more into who you are as a person and who your staff is personality wise, is going to pay dividends more down the road than just like, yeah, you better be able to coach. If you can't coach, it's over. It doesn't really matter. But if you can coach really well and people hate being honest with you, it's going to be tough. Like, that's going to be a really hard staff, or a really long, either a very long and terrible career or a very short and terrible career. Like, it's not going to last very long. So being a complete person outside of just your coaching responsibilities, I think being at different schools and how different head coaches operate, how different directors of strength operate, I would rather be at a place where, maybe I make less money, but I love what I do and I love who I do it with, more than, hey, I slap the logo on my chest and I get paid X amount of dollars and I hate going to work every day. And I think the staff does so well. I've been a coach with for 3 years and coached Summerall for 3 years. Not one time have I ever gotten out of bed at 3 a.m. and been like, damn, I don't want to go do this. This stinks. Like, nope. Like, every day I get up and I'm like, man, I remember every day why I love doing this. Why this is so much fun. Like training these players, developing these young men, and you start to develop this personality where I love being around who I'm around. And just it creates a great atmosphere and it's a great staff. And at the end of the day, I promise you will win more games doing that than just being this miserable human being in the office and where no one wants to be there.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And I would say too, like through the ups and the downs, like having that staff around that like you enjoy being around and like kind of fuels your passion and drives you to want to get better, like especially during the low times too, like you want those people around. And you're gonna have inevitably you're gonna have some of those off games. You're gonna have some hard times and stuff, and you're gonna have some good ones, like, but you want to know that people are there going to be through and through for all those things. So being able to kind of invest in the person, like you said, behind the job, I think that really, even doing it yourself or having the support from fellow staff members, your director, the rest of the coaches, like that drives you to want to do your job better too. Like when you come back and you like as like Colin, like me as Nick, like if I come in and like I'm able to do my own stuff personally and then come back like the coach version of us coming in is more invigorated and wants to be there even more and is not just in there to trade time for money. And that's, I mean, that's you feel valued a lot more in those places and those jobs, and those are the ones that people want to stay in and hold on to for a long time, or those are the staffs that people want to be a part of. And inevitably, I think a lot of the times, like you said, the wins like kind of follow that too, and it's a
Yeah, it's
byproduct of all that stuff.
it's huge. I mean, we're so I mean, we're lucky. I mean, we play basketball together, we eat meals together, we golf together, we go out on the weekends together, we are involved in each other's lives and what we do and at every level. And the players see that too. It's not a show. It's not this facade of we're all high fiving around like, yeah, what's up, coach? Ha ha ha. And the players are very good evaluators, just like we are too. Like we tell them all the time, like, yes, we are evaluating you constantly. Every step you take, we're evaluating, but also they're evaluating you too. And whatever character, whatever emotion or attitude or energy level you show, they'll copy. Like they will emulate that as well. And we come into work every day and every staff member wants to see the other coach. Like no one's walking around like, dang, gotta meet with this guy. This stinks. Like, all right, here we go again. Like, oh, what does this coach want? What is this strength coach yapping about? What is this coach telling me I need to do? All of these things turn into a process where we leave for vacation. And it's not like, wow, I need to get away from these guys. Like I need time to get on my own. You leave for a vacation or coaches go somewhere, recruit, and you still talk every day. And not about football. You just talk about normal stuff. Coaches walk in and here I think it's really special. Some programs do this too, and I'm not taking away from anybody else, but we go to practice and coaches' wives come with their kids to practice, and the players know their kids, and the kids know the players. They're 4 years old, and they run out, and this is my favorite linebacker, and they'll run out and give them a hug, and the players hang out with their kids, and it turns into this atmosphere of playing the game turns fun when every aspect outside of playing the game involves everybody. And you see this buy-in from not just the coach, but from their family as well. I met every coach's kid, and they run around the weight room or on the field, and it turns into this environment where you're not like trapped in this dungeon, you're not trapped in this game of like, oh man, well, here we go again. Like the coaches like, I haven't seen my family in 2 weeks. Like, no, they come to practice, they come to events, they come to stuff, they hang out. Like you go to the coach for a meeting quick, and their 2 kids are in the office. So you spend the first 20 minutes of that meeting hanging out with their kids and just having a good time and developing this relationship and having a family atmosphere. Everyone wants to hang out with each other and be around each other for extended periods of time. And then you get in the meeting and then you talk football or talk whatever you're doing. And it just adds to this level of organizational, you know, it's harmony. It all comes together in every aspect of his lives. And it's awesome to be a part of the staff and these coaches where, you know, a coach leaves or, whatever, takes a new job or goes somewhere, and you never fall out of touch ever. You always talk all the time. Like, hey, coach, good luck this weekend. How's the family doing? How are you guys doing? How are these things? And the players see it. And if they see the coaches care about each other, they're probably going to care about them too. And it turns into this buy-in again where the players trust that you actually care about them more than just how many tackles they have and how many touchdowns they get. And once you can do that in organization and not fake it, where it's real, and you want to see coaches and you want to see their kids and you want to hang out and you want to see the kids just do well, it turns into this incredible thing where your organization is everyone's pushing in the same direction because no one gets anywhere alone, and you're going to have to find help from somewhere. And it's an awesome thing, and it makes coming to work so much fun. I have a great time, and the coaches around and the players around just make it a good time.
That's awesome. No, that's a great environment to be around, and obviously like have that kind of support system and like a true like unfabricated like family atmosphere. That's awesome to have. And again, like you said, like that does all this stuff, like you're not doing it in a fake way, but it purposely drives into like what everybody's like goals are, and like performance on the field or relationship building or trust process, like all this other things that you're doing innately just because like you hired and you want people around you that are like of good character. All the other things come in. Like obviously you have to be a good coach. You have to be a good football player. You have to do your job. But if you bring people in that are good character, that are a good fit, like you can teach some of the other things a little bit more versus bringing someone in that's like a really good player, a really good coach, or really good, and then like they just don't get along with anybody else. So I think you guys are doing it the right way, and it's awesome to kind of hear like where you what you guys' plan is, like where you kind of fit in the process, and just kind of hear a little bit more of those inner workings of like what you guys got going on for the upcoming year and what you've been doing so far. But hey, coach, like any good training session, we end the show with the finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions, and overtime at the end. You can take as much time on any of them, or you can shoot them from the hip quick. But you ready?
Sounds good.
All right, first one I got for you. Biggest influence in the strength and conditioning profession.
For me, Connor Hughes at Army is my first boss. Like I said before, he stuck his neck out for me and stood on the table for me, gave me a chance, and you know, let me live in his basement. Like gave me a place to put my head at night, and gave me a chance, an opportunity, and showed me what it meant to be a a true leader and a true coach. And he's just fantastic. And we, still have our group chat from 5 years ago on that staff, and we all still talk every day. And it showed, you know, this is what the profession should really be. And I owe my entire career, to that man and what he invested in me as a young coach, and every opportunity he gave me.
That's a good one to put on top. So, when you're not coaching, you're not in kind of the weight room walls training yourself. What are kind of some of your hobbies that kind of keep you grounded or get you back invigorated again?
Yeah. As my athleticism has slowly declined, and my body's inability to move fluently, we go out as a group and we go eat dinner together, and I love to go fish and love to go shoot and do a lot of fun stuff. I've gotten back into golfing considerably in the past couple of years. It's just another hard skill to learn. And as a coach, I mean, you get it. Eventually you stop playing, but you never want to stop competing or having a goal to train for, something to work on. And it's an incredibly difficult game because it's just so precise and mental that I can just go and battle it out and try to get a little bit better at something in every day. And I love to go see family. I have friends all around the country with little kids. So a big kind of thing of mine now is I go play uncle. And that's it's kind of my relaxing time. And I have friends in North Carolina and Illinois and Colorado and Boston and New York, and I'll go back and see their kids for a couple of days and go hang out and get to kind of enjoy myself being around some people that meant a lot to me and helped me out in the profession. And that's just a great thing I get to go do.
Yeah, it's a good time to kind of do that and channel your competitive fire into something different, even sometimes when the knees or back give out on you. It's always nice to kind of change it up. Hey, so if you weren't coaching and like in strength conditioning, what do you think you would be doing as a profession if your career had taken a different trajectory?
Well, I originally wanted to go to school to be a history teacher. I really enjoyed it in school and in high school and in college. And my mom was a teacher for 20 plus years and just retired in August, but she laughed and said, "No, you can't do that. You need to find something else." And I said, "Okay." And then I found athletic training, but I would I would probably be a history teacher.
All right. Hey, so setting up an ideal training day for yourself, like either if it's you by yourself or the whole staff is getting after it and it's a competition day between you guys. But if you get the choice, what's playing on the speakers? And then what's your favorite post-training meal when it's all said and done?
Yeah, it's evolved over the years. I used to be more hype in the weight room and a lot of big booty mixes and get the volume up and we're going and running around like crazy, and we still do sometimes. But I'm the odd one out where I'm kind of like a sad country music in the weight room guy now, and everyone turns around like, what's going on in there? What's this guy doing? And I'm in a good mood. I'm just training, working out. Everyone's like, what is going on in there? This guy, you okay? I was like, yeah, and I'm fine. That's what I enjoy now. Um, when I was at Army, we trained as a staff and we were in a staff program and did it. And how none of us got hurt, God knows. God knows how. Every day was a max out. Didn't matter what it was. Everything we did, it was a set of 8. It was until somebody couldn't do that set of 8 anymore. It was utter madness, but it was a lot of fun and a great time to get close with each other and get around a really cool environment. We just did at Tulane, and I wrote a German volume training 6 weeks for our staff. We all came in and did 10 by 10 squat and 10 by 10 bench, 10 by 10 row. And it was a dogfight, an absolute grueling trench warfare. But I think you get around each other and you do hard stuff together and you push each other, and it develops this kind of bond in your staff where you've seen each other tested, and not just physically, but mentally. You've challenged each other pretty well, especially in 10 by 10. That's a long day, and it turns in a lot of fun. And I think it spills over into the rest of your staff and your camaraderie and how you do stuff together. Post training meal, a steak every time. That would be if I could, every single time I'd have a steak and some asparagus and some mashed potatoes. That would be it.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, that atmosphere is always fun to kind of be around and have a group staff lift. I miss that kind of training by myself all the time for the most part, or always being like passing ships with the rest of the staff. The last one I got for you for overtime, what's kind of your favorite way to kind of continue to sharpen the sword and like where do you kind of look for continuing education, or like what kind of coaches outside of maybe some of the ones you mentioned that you kind of lean on for advice or you're kind of tracking right now?
Yeah, uh, it's kind of funny when I go to conferences and listen to coaches talk and present and give ideas, and it's cool. It's kind of the stuff afterwards where you kind of digest what you just heard and now you discuss it and you bring up different ideas. So I've been fortunate enough to kind of be around interns in places where I've met some pretty incredible coaches. And I should say I interned for Mike Boyle for a little while in Boston. And do we program the same way? No, not at all. But he's been incredibly successful in this field for a long time for a reason. He's good at what he does. And I will talk to him multiple times a year. Hey, I have this idea. This is a good idea, a bad idea. How would you do this? And we debate back and forth on what we're doing. And sometimes it comes out and he's like, yeah, that's fine. I would do that. And sometimes he gives me a reason or explanation why, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. And you're like, yep, that's a great call. Didn't think of that, and maybe I'm going to change what I'm doing here. And you had him on your show earlier, Scott Leach. He was my strength coach in college. I mean, not he's my first strength coach, and I had injuries in college and had to fight back from stuff, and he was an incredible shoulder to lean on and getting me back on the field and showing me the right way and doing things in a great, in an urgent manner and doing it the right way. Where now, if I can go back and see him and I can talk to him and see the guys train, I will. But I'll talk to him and I'll call him up. Hey, I have this random idea or this random thought. Have you heard of this? Have you been around that? Have you seen these things? And we have some debate back and forth, or he's like, yeah, I have no idea. Let me ask some people, or we'll bounce ideas off each other. And you create a network where, hey, here's this coach that, I never worked with, I never met, but someone I worked with or was around before knows this guy who knows this guy. And they talked about these kind of things. So you meet new people and get into contact, and a random email or text message or a phone call, like, hey man, you want to hop on and talk about this? It sounds good. So I go to Mike Boyle a lot. I go to Scott Leach a lot. All my friends' profession, GC area, Illinois, and Brendan Reyes are at Colorado, and Blair Vaughn at Sam Houston State now. We constantly bounce ideas off each other. And I'm always looking for someone else's mentor, someone else's person that they go to and turn for information to, well, let's pick your brain. I think here at Tulane, which is awesome, we share a weight room with Olympic staff. We're all in the same room. It's a lot of D1 facilities, football separate. And so we're in the same office. And I get to sit in a room and listen to the baseball strength coach or the track strength coach or, the beach volleyball strength coach talk about all these different things, and this is how beach volleyball does. This is how volleyball does it. Well, the same sport in two totally different ways. And they bounce ideas off each other. And we get to talking about how we program, or how would you do this? How would you progress this skill? And you can always find somebody who does something a different way. And you can attempt to mold that into how you want to use it and how you want to progress things. So, Mike and Scott are two big pieces. And then I'm always looking for something else to listen to, someone else to another ear or another mouth to listen to, and some other ideas.
No, that's awesome. There's a lot of good names in that. Obviously, had a couple of those coaches on the show before. Hopefully, get a couple more in the future. But it's always great to kind of pick the brains of those people and run ideas past them, even if they're not sharing the facility, they're not in the office with you anymore, or you've never kind of met them before. That was the inception of this show too. Was my favorite part of going to the conference was I treat it as like a reunion, like going to see all my former like colleagues and all my former bosses and stuff. And I was separated and like on the West Coast, like trying to learn everybody over there for a while. And COVID happened and stuff. And my favorite part of the conference was going to find a hole in the world bar and talking to coaches until their ears were red. So this was my chance to kind of like branch it out. And it's awesome to kind of see like the tree limbs start to connect together a little bit and see how meeting another coach like leads to talking to another coach or another conversation with them. So I think it's a great way for like the profession to kind of move forward and for everybody to share ideas, because to your point, the way you and I do stuff is probably very different. The way Mike Boyle does stuff, the way Coach Hughes does stuff, Coach Witt does stuff, everybody does it differently in different ways. And it's now no right or wrong. And I think that's the cool part of what it is. It's like, it's how you do it and the manner in which you get the athlete or the person you're working with to kind of buy into that process. So it's an awesome kind of way to kind of tie that in. But hey, Coach, I appreciate all your time today. It's been awesome to kind of hear a little bit about your stories and like your thought process and how you guys kind of do everything and what you're kind of doing training wise. For anybody that's got any follow-up questions for you, kind of want to pick your brain or reach out and run some ideas past you or anything else that's kind of come up from our conversation today, where can they get a hold of you or follow along?
So my Tulane email is always up online at Tulane, and I check it constantly. My alerts are on, so if I get email, I'll see it. My first initial C, last name Kenyon at tulane.edu. That'll be there online, and I'll always answer. Honestly, I don't remember my Twitter handle is anymore. I don't really ever use it, or X now, but I give you that information and you can work it in. I don't even know what it is, but if someone messages me, I will absolutely answer. I would love to. On Instagram, ckenyon19. If you send me a DM, I'll see it and I'll look, and I'm always trying to make sure I'm not missing or overlooking something, and not, anyone's question for me, or, I'm sure I'll have questions for them, if they reach out, and I'd love to connect with people.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I appreciate all your time. We'll make sure that everything kind of gets linked, so anybody that's trying to reach out will have direct access to you. But I appreciate your time today. Hope you enjoy the rest of the kind of winter holidays before the spring semester kicks back off. But thanks again for coming on today, Coach.
Appreciate you, Coach. It's been a great time, and a privilege to be on here.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.